for the Better Birding Skills Committee on concepts for learning birdsong. And I have found in the last few years from leading field trips that lots of you have been asking, you just cannot learn birdsong and you're just frustrated and all you hear is all these birds chirping. So I'm hoping that this is a fun presentation tonight. It might seem possibly a little elementary for some of you, but I think all of you will get something out of it, I hope. And if not, you'll get a good laugh. I haven't laughed yet tonight, but I am now. So we're going to go through this. We will have questions in the chat, a question and answer thing. I believe we've decided you may interrupt with a question. Dave or Peter or Jim or Susan will be fielding the questions to me because I can't see what you're saying in the chat. So anyway, we'll just proceed. I have a border collie puppy named Pippet, and she is supposed to be behaving because I fed her extra tonight. But if she barks, I really apologize. I couldn't get anybody to watch it tonight. So hopefully she's quiet. Okay, so the first thing we want to think about when we're trying to hear birds, and the first thing I do the minute I walk out the door in the morning, I stop noise. I don't listen to the sirens out here on Alameda. I don't listen to airplanes or anybody starting their car. I stop the noise because all I'm focusing on is how many birds in the next 5 minutes can I hear. Am I hearing 3 house finches, 2 black-capped chickadees? I'm hearing my brown creeper over here into my bedroom window. I'm hearing those crows that are across the street from me. And I am just so tuned into that. That is my thing. You have to stop the noise. You have to not look at your phone, get distracted by anything else if you're really trying to learn birdsong. So we have the barking dogs, and we've got the sirens and the wind and the rushing water and the airplane noise. And I think too many of us are overstimulated by all this extraneous noise and sound. So when you're trying to learn birdsong, you're just tunnel vision into that, just into bird sound. But how are you going to do that? First thing is, many people say, well, I can't hear the birds. I don't know where you're hearing this bird from. What I do, and I still do this after all many years, is I hear any bird singing or chirping or calling, and I identify it listening with my eyes. I look up, where is it coming from? Where is that sound coming from? Looking, listening, watching. Okay, so you're on that path. All right, that's very important. The second concept is hear farther than you can see. Okay, I live in a condominium complex with lots of mature conifers on this property. And we have a Say's Phoebe male that has come back here year after year and nested on my neighbor's porch. And he is probably 100 yards from here, from my front porch. And 2 weeks ago, I heard him because I was hearing far. I couldn't see, but I knew where it was coming from. So that is something you really want to train your ear to do. This is a lot of ear training, and we did this a lot. I did this a lot as a musician, as a professional musician, a music major at CU Boulder. Ear training is that. So how do you hear? How do you listen with your eyes? How do you hear farther than you can see? Well, what I've told, especially in the Master Birder program, when I was kind of helping people after my class, is you break it down. What are the birds I can hear 10 feet from in front of me? The brown creeper out here on the side of the house. The Eurasian collar doves that come out in the tree right in front of my porch. Those are the birds that I can hear 10 feet in front of me. How about farther out? How about way out there and then in that ponderosa pine? I hear crows out there 20 feet away. How about birds 30 feet above me or 50 feet above, 50 feet away from me. And I break it down into little patches like that. So you're not just listening to all these birds, the dawn chorus, and you're hearing many, many birds at one time. You just take it in little bites. Okay, now let's get into the fun stuff. You listen to the silence in between the songs. Have you ever done that? Have you ever just stopped and breathed and listened and waited maybe for a bird to sing again, or a bird to call again, or you don't hear anything, but you listen to that pause, and that is very, very important. That is part of the music of birdsong, is listening to the silence in between the song. Okay. Identify the direction as to where the song is coming from. Where is it coming from? Is it bouncing off of something? Am I not able to locate where it's coming from? Take a deep breath, identify where it's coming from. And once you find that bird, our yellow warbler over here, you're just going to watch it sing, not the yellow warbler and two robins and something else. You're just going to listen to the yellow warbler. Let me go back. So I'm just listening and I'm watching that yellow warbler, this little bitty yellow bird with red streaks on its breast. I'm just watching him sing, and I'm concentrating and I'm watching and cementing that into my ear. That is a yellow warbler. I'm not listening to 10 birds and trying to memorize them. I'm just listening for that yellow warbler. And that might be the only bird I'm trying to learn today. How about a bush tit? Bush tits are very difficult to hear because if you have hearing difficulties in the high range, you might not be able to hear it, but you might pick up one note of it. 4 notes. There's 4 notes there. And if you hear a whole flock of them, that's great, because then you can really, really cement that sound into your ear. And if you're lucky like me, and I have them right out here near my front porch, and these flocks fly through all the time, I hear them every day. I hear them at my house. I hear them over here at Fairmount Cemetery, and it's fun to see them. I know the flocks are there because I can hear them. If you have any questions at this point, we can interrupt and break in. I see some people maybe having a question, or no?
Karen, this is Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. It sounds like we're having a little difficulty with the recorded bird songs on your PowerPoint. So I was actually just about to call up my iBird.
I think what we need to do is check the audio.
Well, we're hearing you just fine.
But you're not hearing the audio?
We're not hearing the audio.
Oh, I'm glad you told me that, because we had it going yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
Peter, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to offer, if nothing else, I can call up the bush tit on my iPhone and play it.
Well, I have several audio recordings, and so this is kind of a piece of this that we need to have.
There was, Karen, there was that checkbox that we checked
and I'm looking,
yesterday.
Where can I find that, Peter?
Oh, I think it was back when you went to share your screen in Zoom. There was an option when.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, you guys, that's my personality. If you don't know me, that's me. Can you hear it now? Let me play the bush tit again, okay?
I hear it.
Oh, Hopefully the audience is hearing that.
Maybe Jan Gorski can tell us. She's been responsive. Oh, everybody says yes. Okay, so it looks like it's working.
Great. Okay, let me go back here quickly and let me get out of this. Okay. All right. Well, there's a stem box here that I don't know why.
Click on that checkbox.
There. I clicked on the checkbox. And I've got, wait a minute. I've got this welcome to PowerPoint presenter coach preview. But fear not, because I'm going to work around it. Okay, so Susan, when you, I think, I don't want to rehearse. I don't want to rehearse. We're going to go off of rehearse. Close this guy. Okay. Are you all still hearing me okay?
Yep.
Okay, yay. Okay, so how do you connect the song with the name of the species? How do you connect the name of the bird that you're hearing singing with the species? Number one, the first thing you do is know your local birds. Hopefully you all know blue jay, black-capped chickadee, American crow, the northern flicker, you know, your basic birds, okay? You know your basics. But now, when you go outside, and I do this all the time, if I'm hearing a lot of birds, I close my eyes, I clear my mind, and I don't worry about what kind of bird, this unusual bird that I'm hearing. I've heard a bunch of them lately, and I don't know what they are. They're migrants. We hear them once a year. So I don't worry about what kind of a bird it is. Okay? So slowly, my brain will conjure up a series of pictures or words based solely on what I'm hearing. Okay? And we're going to get into this further in just a second. Connect that first impression to the name of the species. And everybody has their own convoluted way of referring back to the bird. And then expand the image to bring it into context. For example, I haven't heard a rusty blackbird in my neighborhood, but this is a rusty blackbird. I think you get the idea. So the rusty blackbird is not going to be a rusty bird on a fence. It's usually down by the water, but you hear that rusty quality. And that gives me a visual trigger that it's rusty. It's got to be a rusty blackbird because it sounds like a rusty gate. Okay? And then this is another concept we're going to get into is test what you've learned or test what you've heard. And this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of this presentation. Okay, so I said, know your locals, your blue jays, your black-capped chickadees, your robins, your starlings. And you're saying, I've heard this so many times, I just can't hear the birds. And one of our dear birder friends, Diane Roberts, said that to me a few years back. She said, I just can't hear the birds. And then a couple of years ago, she said, Karen, I wasn't listening. And that stuck with me. And I tell everybody that. And touche, Diane, she's hearing the birds now. So are you listening? Are you listening for the birds? Are you listening to what somebody had for lunch yesterday on a field trip? Are you listening? I sound bossy, don't I? I am bossy. So you really have to, like I said, go back to the beginning, really tune in to what you're hearing. The next concept is birding by ear different than birding by sight? Well, it kind of is, but you're going to let your ears wander. I go outside, I hear I'm hearing birds all over the place, or I try. And then again, back to that beginning slide, see, hear with your eyes. You're gonna, I hear it, there it is. I'm gonna hear with my eyes, and then I'm gonna identify it, and I'm gonna watch that yellow warbler sing and sing and sing and sing, and I'm gonna cement it into my ear. Use your peripheral hearing. What do you hear in front of you? What are you hearing behind you? What am I hearing to my right and left? What am I hearing behind, something else? And once you let your ears wander, that sound will jump into your ears and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so curious. What is it? What is that bird? Everyone still with me? Yay. Okay. All right. So the next concept, which I think is extremely useful, is I have a little field guide, and I did this a few years back. I would sketch what I would hear. Okay, here's our blue jay. It's not a spectrogram. It's not as fancy as a spectrogram. It's just a crude, unartistic drawing, bold lines, bold sound, down slur. A down slur is a ew, ew, ew. That's a down slur. Okay. I could never for the life of me understand what a brown creeper sounded like. Fairmount Cemetery is loaded with them. So I kept sketching this sound that I was hearing. Watch my cursor. Can you see? I don't know if you can see my cursor. Probably not.
Yes, we can see your cursor.
Okay. So here's the top note. Come on, brown creeper. Again, if you don't have, okay, do you get my drift there? Do you see what I'm doing? So I would sketch that sound, and I would try to match it up with my Sibley's, or I'll show you some other applications that you can go into and find, what is that bird? Oh, it's a brown creeper. Okay, house finch. We all know what a house finch sounds like. However, right now they're singing. So I'm sketching this little curly Q thing that it's doing. And that's what your sketchbook, when you're trying to recall and remember that concept of what you're hearing. Okay, here's a good one. And I have to pat Cynthia Madsen and Dave Hill on the back for this one. This is what we learned in Master Birders, but it's actually part of another app that I'm going to tell you about. Okay, the ruby crowned kinglet is a bird of the spruce fir forest. Okay, up in Meyer Ranch, if you've ever been on a field trip with me up there, that bird is singing up there all the time. Okay, so he's got this little red crown, and he's going to start out really super high, almost inaudibly fast. That pitch is going to descend, and it's going to go up and down like the points of a crown. And this is the high point of his song. So listen. Here we go. Makes sense? Pretty cool, huh? I hear ruby crown kinglets in my sleep in the spring. They're everywhere. So you don't have to draw a spectrogram, you can learn spectrograms. That's advanced and that's important. But this little kind of thing is just for crude field work to remember the bird song, and write in there, oh, it's got a ruby crown, and here's the points of the crown, and here's the accented point of the crown right here. And I'll never forget what a ruby crown kinglet sounds like. Okay, another concept, and this was from, his name is Tom Stevenson from Audubon, and these were his concepts, which I think were great. I mean, I use this a lot, and it's really fun. And you can make your notations about these things. Okay, so make your scenario of what you're hearing with your eyes, hearing farther than you can hear. Make a ridiculous scenario, okay? The way I remembered a common yellowthroat was he was like a common criminal. He wore a black mask. He was just, that's what I visually remember him looking like. But it was like a witch wearing a mask, okay? Or we know the yellow warbler, I'm so sweet, honey is sweet, 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 I'm so sweet. Just these ridiculous scenarios like this. Here's the ovenbird. Okay, the ovenbird is making this killer batch of cookies. And he's trying to impress the teachers with this impressive batch of cookies. Give me a sec. Teacher. I can't even say it that fast. There's a barred owl in the background there on that recording. But this is a kind of visual concepts you have to make for yourself or conjure up for yourself. I mean, you can learn mnemonics, but some mnemonics don't even work for me, like potato chip for the American goldfish. Not goldfish, goldfinch. It's actually saying American. The black cap chickadee is saying chickadee. We're thinking about syllables. And I'm going to get, in a few slides from now, we're going to get into that. Okay, how about the green-tailed towhee? For the longest time, I could not remember how a green-tailed towhee sounded. I knew what a spotted towhee sounded like, and I could hear the green-tailed towhee in the spring, but I was like, how am I going to remember that? So drink your tea, spotted towhee. Okay, his toes are cold. His toes, spotted towhee toes. And so in order to warm up his toes, he's got to drink his tea. Drink your tea, drink your tea. Okay, you get that. So how am I going to remember the green-tailed towhee? Towhees have a similar tone quality to their song, but the green-tailed towhee is much more musical, much sweeter. So he's drinking his tea with sugar in it. Now listen to this. Drink your tea with sugar in it. Drink your tea with sugar in it. So that's what I've done to remember the green-tailed towhee. Often the bird will say its name. Okay, this is a little crude, but it's funny, I think. Western wood pewee. I have to pee! Pee! I have to pee! Right? There's our toilet, there's our man and woman symbols. Pee! You're going to start hearing this bird pretty soon, probably in the next 3 weeks, and you will hear it a lot. You will hear it in Denver. I hear them over here at the cemetery. They're flycatchers, but it's just fun, and it's an easy way to remember the name of a western wood pewee. How else are you going to learn that name? And I also think it sounded like a lifeguard whistle. More a lifeguard whistle than a police whistle. So the birds say their names. Okay, I've said that. Right now, the northern flicker is going flitka, 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 and that's a territorial call that it's making right now. We know what it usually makes, you know, the sound that it usually makes. Again, the American goldfinch. You might hear potato chip. Every field guidebook will say potato chip, but I hear American, American. When they're flying overhead, finches sound finchy. They all sound kind of nasally, finchy, American. So I hear that and I can identify it quickly. Of course, we know what the black-capped chickadee sounds like. And again, our rusty blackbird with the rusty creaking gate. Rusty. Pick out something in the bird's name that can help you pull it back into your memory. You're making a mental library, an audio library in your own brain, and you can't do 20 birds in a week and learn them if you don't know the birds at all. If you've never heard the birds. I have problems with the lazuli bunting. I hear it in the spring and I'm like, oh, I know that bird, I know that bird, I know that bird. And yesterday I was thinking, okay, how am I going to remember the lazuli bunting? And unfortunately, I didn't put one up here. But it's like, my head is blue, my head is blue, my head is blue, 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 blue. My head is blue, my head is blue. And I keep hearing that cadence. We're going to talk about cadence in a minute, but that's what it's not so much a mnemonic, but it's kind of a combination mnemonic and how am I going to cement that into my ear this spring when I hear them? And now I will, because I have a new reference point. Okay. Excuse me, I got to take a quick drink here. My throat is a little dry. Okay, here's another funny scenario. Well, that may be funny. Here's our typical flycatchers, okay? We've got the willow flycatcher, we've got the least flycatcher, we've got the olive-sided flycatcher, and we've got a Say's phoebe, okay? So let's picture them all going out to a patio for a beer garden, okay? The willow flycatcher is sitting next to the willow bushes, and he's allergic to willows, okay? The olive-sided flycatcher is sitting at the beer garden, and he's like, let's have quick 3 more beers, quick 3 beers. But the least flycatcher is saying, the check, the check, the check. Come on, let's go, the check, the check, the check. But the Say's phoebe says, a bug, a bug, a bug, if you please. He still wants to eat. So these are the crazy scenarios that I've come up with to remember. You can look at field guides and you can try to figure out what David Sibley is saying. Huh? I don't always get that stuff, but let's listen to this. Let's listen to the willow flycatcher. Choo! A fixed view. Achoo! Okay? Achoo! Okay. So now the olive-sided flycatcher is the lush, and he wants more beer. Okay, he's at the beer garden. He doesn't care about the willow flycatcher sneezing. What? Who cares? One more time. Okay, but the least flycatcher is over here, this little guy. See how the olive-sided is more an upright bird? His profile is more vertical, as the least is more 45-degree angle-ish. If you want to hear a least flycatcher, you might put this in your notes. A great place to hear them is at the Audubon Nature Center, those back there by the South Platte behind the Audubon Nature Center. It's a great place in the spring to hear least flycatchers. So the least flycatcher is picking up the check, okay? The check, the check, the check, check, check. He's over it. He wants to go home. Doesn't want to buy any 2 more beers. Our little Say's phoebe. This was my little mnemonic thing. above, 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 if you please. Now that might work for you or it might not work for you. We've all heard these sounds, or most of us have, or if you're a new birder or you haven't heard these sounds, this is a good reference point. The pygmy nuthatch, of course, sounds like the dog squeaky toy. And if you hear a whole flock of them, you will really hear that. The pine siskin, I always tell people, okay, the pine siskin is a bird. He likes to go camping in the woods, and he's zipping up his tent. You hear that? Once you get that sound cemented into your head, you will hear pine siskins until you go mad. One of my favorite birds is the great-tailed grackle. Now, I think it sounds, if you're old enough to know what a pinball machine is, it sounds like, oh, there are all these bells and whistles and crazy sounds that it makes. Or, you know how you take a balloon and you have air in it and you squeeze the top of it and makes that squeaky sound? So let's listen to the great-tailed grackle. And this is how I remember that sound. Here's the pinball machine. So that's how I remember those birds. And you can do your own version. Remember in the very beginning when I said you have to conjure up your own image? You close your eyes, you listen, you're putting this image together in your mind. That's what that's all about. Okay, I know I'm kind of a little bit frazzled from my presentation not starting on time, so I'm sorry if I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Okay, how about vireos? Vireos all have, they might not exactly sound the same, but they have the same tone quality, the question and answer. And I don't understand that 3/8, 5/8, whatever that is. I have tried to figure out whatever they're trying to say. What I hear is, okay, a professor. Okay, for like the Plumby, this is a Plumbeus vireo. Okay, the professor is wearing spectacles. So is the Plumbeus vireo. Okay. The professor is asking question. The Plumbeus vireo is answering. But all vireos kind of do that question and answer thing. Okay. They might not have spectacles. They might have a version of a spectacle, but they're all going to have that question, answer. Don't, that 3/8, 5/8 thing. I think that is so confusing for people to try to figure out what are they talking about. So let's listen to a warbling vireo, which is really cool. And again, in our field trips or our study groups for master birders, I could not hear a warbling vireo to save my life. So what do we hear? So how do you know that I'm here? So how do you know that I'm here? It's a rollicking da 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 da, and then it has two kissies at the end. So listen to this. Kiss, kiss. Listen again. He does have some spectacles. So how do you know that I'm here? Okay, that's the warbling vireo. How about the Plumbeus vireo? The one, the question and answer bird? Again, Question? Answer. Question? Answer. A little quicker, a little choppier, not as rollicking, but they all have that similar sound quality. So if you hear a Cassin's vireo, to me, it sounds like part of this recording, it sounds like it's hailing a taxi. Did you hear the question and the answer? Yoo-hoo! Over here. Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hoo! Over here. It's still that up and down kind of quality. Let me look at my time here, make sure I'm not getting too crazy. Oh, we're good. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense, the question and answer. Okay. Oh, this is where the rubber meets the road. How about these birds that sound really similar? Oops, not those birds. Okay, so here's our American robin. We all know they're all chortling right now. I call it chortling. They're doing that at night. They're defending territory. They're calling in mates. They're doing all that. And robins, if you listen to a robin, sometime when you just want to sit there on your patio in the morning and drink a cup of coffee and listen to the robins, they do all this crazy, really unusual variation of their chortle. I call it chortle. Okay, so listen to this. Cheery up, Cheerio, whatever they're saying. Honey nut Cheerios, I don't know what they're saying. What do you hear in the background? You hear that bird out there 20 feet behind the robin? Let me start it from the beginning. Listen very carefully to that bird 20 feet behind the robin. Can you identify that? Okay, so there's our robin. So just kind of put that little extra sound in the back of your mind. Okay, a Western tanager sounds very similar to American robin, but it's rougher, like he smokes too much. And he's saying, pretty quick, pretty quick, pretty quick, pretty quick, pretty quick, pretty quick. So let's listen. He's got that husky voice, not that beautiful, bubbling, robin-y voice. Sounds like a robin, but it's a lot rougher. Pretty quick, pretty quick, pretty quick, pretty quick. Here's the similarity. And a lot of you, their birders know this. See how he's more. Okay, now let's listen to these two. Let's listen to the American robin and the black-headed grosbeak. And if you've been on a field trip of mine in El Dorado Canyon State Park, and we hear the black-headed grosbeaks, which breed up there, I make you sing the song back. You hear the black-headed grosbeaks, and we hear them singing, and in order for you to cement that in your head, which I think is another really good thing, even if you're not a singer, try to sing it back to yourself. So let's listen to the robin. That bird in the background. Now let's listen to the black-headed grosbeak. Come here. The difference is the black-headed grosbeak goes on and on and on. He doesn't even take a breath. He doesn't even come up for air. He just keeps singing over and over and over. He's a lot more, you want to say musical, but it's like that's relative because a lot of people are like, what does that mean? It's a lot more, we're going to talk about tone color here in a minute. It's a lot more musical as opposed to the tanager that sounds like rough and pretty bit and pretty bit and pretty bit. He's not singing over and over and over and over and over. I keep going down to this slide, sorry. Towns in solitaire, okay? Also a thrush. Let's listen to what he has to say. It's more choppy. It's more tinkling. It stops and starts, whereas the black-headed grosbeak goes on and on and on and on and on. Now let's listen to the blue-headed grosbeak, which is all, these guys are related. But listen to this. Listen very carefully. You can easily get fooled by the blue grosbeak because it sounds a lot like a warbling vireo. It's not quite as smooth and fluid and liquidy as the warbling vireo, but those two birds, I've heard a blue-headed grosbeak out at Bluff Lake Nature Center, and I'm thinking, where's the warbling vireo? And it's a blue-headed grosbeak. So, it's these birds that sound alike. This is your challenge, is to sort them out. And I'm going to tell you how to do that in just a sec here. Okay, we know these birds, the white-breasted nuthatch. And I had a gal on a field trip years ago, and she said she didn't know what a white-breasted nuthatch sounded like. And she said, when I pointed it out to her, she said, that sounds like a monkey. So you should know what a white-breasted nuthatch sounds like. But again, when you're tuning in to one bird and you're hearing a warbling vireo and a white-breasted nuthatch and a black-headed grosbeak, you're honing in on that monkey sound. You're honing in on that constant singing robin sound. How about the red-breasted nuthatch? We know what that sounds like. That hank, hank, hank. Do you all know who Hank Williams is? I just threw that in there for fun. like the red-breasted nuthatch wants to be part of Hank Williams' band or something. That was just a joke. All right, now we're getting into a little bit more phrasing, and I don't want to get too into the technical part of music because if you're not a musician, it's like learning Pig Latin or something. Okay, but I am going to go over a few things on cadence and cadence or phrase. So a cadence is, I'll try to sing it. My throat's getting a little weird. Here comes the bride, da 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 da. Whatever those other words are, I just looked them up a while ago and I can't remember what they were. So that is a phrase. Here comes the bride, all dressed in white, or whatever it is. That's a phrase. And so birds will have a phrase. And when you really start getting more into summer and into the singing, you're going to start hearing the phrases. You're going to hear the robin has a phrase. That cheery up, cheerio, cheery up, whatever it is, that is a cadence or a phrase. How fast is the bird singing? The white-breasted nuthatch, you heard how fast he was doing his monkey sound. That is the speed. How can you count how many times he's doing that monkey sound until he stops? Can you count exactly how many notes he's singing? This is a musical term. It's called timbre, not timbre. It's tone color. It's like I'm a cellist, or I was a cellist until I have arthritis in my fingers. A cello is a lot warmer and richer and deeper than, say, a violin. So that is tone color. Does the bird have a warm, like a deep throated sound, or is it thin and like say a hermit thrush that has that flute-like, liquidy, silvery sound, or is it just plain pathetic? Does it just have a pathetic, like whatever? I'm trying to think of an example. So it could be like bubbling water. Like I think of the hermit thrush as bubbling water. just this beautiful trailing off waterfall? Or is it like a rattlesnake? Or is it just like all these different colors? It's just like this mesh of different tone colors together. Cacophony is flat out noise. It's a gull. We hear them out at Cherry Creek State Park lately. The woodhouse scrub jay, a starling, just these ghastly sounds. They're not musical at all. They're just racket. A tremolo in music, and I'm just throwing this out there because maybe you can identify a bird that sounds like that. It's a sweeping flourish. It starts out low and it ends up high like an opera aria. And if you haven't heard an opera aria, listen to Mozart's Queen of the Night aria. It's a beautiful aria. It's great. It's fun. So a tremolo starts low and it flourishes up high and it gets very grand. Okay. A trill is between two notes, two fast notes going back and forth. So some birds listen for that. This might be a little more advanced and maybe more into learning your bird sounds, but just file it away somewhere. Syncopated like a bouncing ball, like a repeated number of notes. A lot of woodpeckers do that. A lot of woodpeckers, they bouncing ball. Okay, the bouncing ball sound. But not all woodpeckers have the same number of bouncing numbers or bouncing sounds as another woodpecker. And so that would be a good thing for you to write in your journal. How many, it starts out kind of slow and it's like a ping pong ball being dropped on a floor. It gets faster and faster and faster. And I'm not going to tell you which ones those are. I want you to figure those out. If you've never heard an American veteran, you have missed out on the biggest thing in your life. It's bigger than going on a cruise. It is the funniest sound you will ever hear in your life. This is a little American veteran. They're a bird of the cattail marsh. And they are an interesting bird in that they mimic the cattail marsh. I mean, they will move their heads back and forth and they're so camouflaged that you can't really even see them, but you can hear them. And so just for the fun of it, I thought I'd throw this in there. It starts out low and robust like a dripping faucet. So I want you to listen for that. And it goes into this horse chugging a beer. Okay. So if you ever get the opportunity to hear a bittern, they're just the funniest bird you've ever heard in your life. So here we go. Let him chug one more time. Those are his air sacs in his throat, actually. Okay, Mr. Bittern. How about the grasshopper sparrow? If you haven't heard a grasshopper sparrow, a great place to hear them is Plainview Road out between El Dorado Springs and Golden. It's an area out there, and I'll probably do a field trip out there this year. So if you haven't gotten a grasshopper sparrow, they sound like a grasshopper. So let's have a listen. One more. Hear it? They sound like a grasshopper, don't they? And I presume that's why they got their name as a grasshopper sparrow. Some more musical terminology, just so you know, just so you can kind of identify a staccato, like a sewing machine. Okay, it's just this up and down, up and down, up and down, same repetitive note. It's dry, repetitive, and fast like a chipping sparrow. A bush tit does that, a downy woodpecker. They sound like a rattlesnake. Here's our downy, here's our bush tit, here's our chipper. Spiccatos. It's lively and bouncing and chortly, and that's your robin and your house wren and your house finch. That's that, and I won't elaborate too much on that, but I just wanted to put it out there. Cacophony. That's the term that I said. It just sounds like, oh, like these poor children. They never learned. They're beautiful birds, and they never learned how to sing. That's our other bird. The yellow-headed blackbird, actually, you know, I'm trying to remember what it's called right off the top of my head, but they turn their head to the left. I think it's called laterality. And when they do that thing, there's two different calls. I need to look into that better. I'm not being a very good instructor on that. But they actually turn their head to the left when they make that call. And when they make their other call, which I don't have recorded here, they have their head going straight forward. Here's our Rusty again, I think. And Rusty Gate. We won't go into big drama on that. Okay, so here we get into a little bit of mnemonics. Okay, and I'm going to bring this all home to you in just about 2 or 3 more slides. Okay, so the Lincoln Sparrow, he's saying free, 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 free all the slaves. Okay, and if you listen very carefully, you're counting the syllables. Free, 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 free all the slaves. Okay, Abe Lincoln, he's freeing the slaves, he's emancipating the slaves. Here's this little streaking of his beard, so you can help identify him. So let's listen to the Lincoln Sparrow just really briefly. Free, 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 free all the slaves. So if you don't know a Lincoln Sparrow, I highly recommend that you get, if you're not a big sparrow person, these are good ones to learn. The Lincolns, and here's the Savannah. The Savannah says its name. So Savannah, it's got a southern accent. So Savannah. You hear it? So that's how you can identify that. You can write that in your little field notebook. Quickly, we're going to go through the bird language, the 5 vocalizations of bird language. The baseline song, which is the birds that are just hanging out, the chickadees, the robins, just their basic song, okay? The companion calls, territorial aggression, the adolescent begging, and the alarm calls. So baseline song is a bird that isn't worried for its life. It's relaxed and just foraging like a robin on the ground, or a, I don't know, house wren. Well, not a house wren, but let's say a robin. And it just includes the courtship singing and the male birds. Okay, it's just no big deal. They're just mellow. There's no raptors around. There's no Cooper's hawks going to come and kill them. The companion songs are, say, 2 robins on the ground, a male and a female. I'm seeing that right now. And they just communicate with each other. Are you over there? Yeah, I'm still over here. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just eating the worm. Oh, okay, just checking in. So that's just the companion calls. And again, there's no threat there. They're just communicating, basic communication. Territorial aggression. Males are defending their territory and they exhibit behavior such as loud squawking or wing flapping. And You will see that right now. I've seen that a lot right now with black-hat chickadees. They are just ruthless right now. They are just battling for territory. The adolescent begging, of course, is the incessant repetition. You know, feed me, I'm hungrier than this one. And the problem is, of course, it's potential threat to nesting birds that attract predators. So that's a bad thing. And hopefully they can get their food in there quicker than not, so they're not wiped out. Alarm calls, you have a sentinel bird, which is the bird that's going to bring in, okay, I see the biggest perceived threat. Here's my Cooper's hawk over here. I see there's a threat coming in, and the imminent threat, the more dee it does, the higher the threat. So some alarm calls are faint and high pitched as not to attract predators. So like, so just the regional birds can hear them and they know trouble's coming. But if it's really bad, high alert, there'll be a lot more, and they'll do a lot more of that DVD stuff. I'm just going to touch on this. How do birds learn their song? The singing males in the spring. The young babies are learning, you know, the testosterone, the hormone levels come up in the males. And as the young babies are, you know, learning their song, they might pick up a few of the notes or something, but it's the increased testosterone production that makes the birds sing for their territory and their breeding and all of that. Family groups, crows do this. I see the crows, they're hysterical to listen to. I wish I could write a whole book on crow vocabulary. I'm sure that's already been out there, but they really communicate. I like the castanet ones where they clack their bills together. I don't know what that means, but when they do that, they all tear back and forth between the trees and they all come to that bird. Mimicry, of course, is mockingbirds, starlings do that. I've heard blue jays sound like, you know, some other bird. I've heard, of course, chats. I've heard chats sound like 5 different birds in about 2 minutes. So that's mimicry, and we're not going to get big time into that tonight. Okay, so we have time here. We're getting close to the end, you guys. Thank you for being so patient. But all I hear when I listen for birds is just one big wall of many birds singing. Okay, I hear this bird and that, I don't know what they are. How do I sort them out again? So here is my favorite book of all time, and I want you guys to write this down and order it on Amazon or get it on, you know, your Kindle or something, because I have worn the pages off of this book going back and referring to it. It's John Young's What the Robin Knows. And what his concept is, I go over here to Fairmount Cemetery, or I go over here to a park bench. There's a little area where we can run our dogs, and there's conifer trees around there, and it's called my sit spot, or anyone's sit spot. And you sit in that spot, and this is where you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to listen farther than you can hear, and you're going to see farther than you can see, and you're going to get to know birds coming and going out of that little spot. And I've done this in Fairmount Cemetery, and I cannot tell you how many incredible birds I've gotten over there just by taking a thermos bottle of coffee in the wintertime and a warm coat and sitting there and just watching the birds come and go, season in, season out. So I don't want to spoil it for you, but I really would like you to look into this book. It was recommended to me by Wendy Ribbons in our Master Birder class. She did a whole presentation on this book, and it's just terrific. So what John Young talks about is bird plow. And bird plow is like, okay, I'm marching in with my scope and my binoculars and my camera and my 9mm lens, and I'm going in there to see the birds. And you're swinging your arms and you're making all this racket and you're stomping your feet. Well, the first thing that birds do is vamoose. You know, they're gone. And it takes about 20 minutes for them to settle down and feel safe enough to come back in. So what John Young suggests is you walk slowly and steadily like a fox, like you have no, you're not in a hurry. You're just kind of looking at the ground and looking around. You're not like, you're just being cool, okay? You're pricking up your ears like a deer. Here's my deer. Here's my fox walk. Here's my deer. You're pricking up your ears. You're listening in front of you, behind you, both sides, everywhere. I'm listening in the back part of the cemetery. I'm listening, I'm listening to the spotted towhees in the leaf litter or the juncos moving the leaves around. That is deer hearing, okay? Pricking up your ears. Your ears are going in, everywhere. They're listening to everything. Your peripheral hearing. Okay, you awaken all your senses. Are you feeling what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you feeling? Wet grass? Are you feeling mist? Are you feeling, just wake up your senses and get back in touch with your body and what your God-given talents are for hearing and seeing birds. That's really important. Concentrate on the farthest, quietest sound, front, behind, left, and right. Here's our mouse. And I've heard moles, actually. I've heard them scared daylights out of me because there's rabbits and moles all these things, or voles, not moles. But this is what you need to, this is all part of the hearing process and getting to know your birds. And it's your patch. If you can sit in your patch daily, and I go out there every morning with my coffee and my dog, and I listen, and I hear my same brown creeper every morning. He's not there now, he's probably up in the mountains. Or I hear my bush tits. But I get to know that's how you get to know your patch, okay? Okay, we're on the home stretch. So let's just play the canyon then, for example, and I'm gonna wind this up. He's up there. One more. And you're not going to hear a canyon wren. This is what's going to be really important. We've got future workshops coming in for this, learning birds and habitat, and it's going to be an ongoing series thing, which is going to be really important. But you're not going to hear a canyon wren in Fairmont Cemetery because there's no canyon over there. All right, okay. But what I have found useful, if I'm trying to learn a bird sound that I don't know, go on YouTube videos. Just click on a Savannah sparrow. There's several people have filmed all of these birds singing, and try to get the best ones that you can. The best videos, the clearest videos, where the bird's not shifting around a lot, but they're singing. And so, like, I think it's supposed to snow again tomorrow, or on a crummy day like yesterday was. If you can't go out birding, go on a YouTube video and look at the watch the birds singing. That's your perfect opportunity. And cement that sound into your birding library. Your 5 birds that you're going to learn. Your drawings and your notes and so forth. Another absolutely wonderful app. You're going to learn 5 birds at a time. Okay. It's called Larkwire, and you can't. I have an Android phone. I know I'm one of those people, but you can't download it on an Android phone, but you can download it on a computer. It's the Birder Pro Western Birds, the 300, you can do 300 Western birds, okay? And what it will do is it will take, the 5 really basic, easy birds, okay? And then it'll switch them around, and it'll ask you what bird is making this sound. So it'll show 5 birds, and you're supposed to connect the sound of the bird with the picture, okay? And it keeps changing the order of it. So that is a absolutely great way to learn your local birds. The Birder Core is the local birds in the area. It's $8.95, and I think it's a one-time fee. It's not like a yearly subscription thing. But I'll tell you what, it is so much better. Don't buy those dumb CDs. I've got boxes of them over here on the shelf if you want them. Where you put the CD in your CD player, if you still have one in your car, and you've got this man saying, house wren, house wren. And you can't learn that way. You just can't learn that way because when you go out in the field, you're not going to remember it. You have to take just a few select birds at a time and then build on that library and build on that and then go back to the first 5 birds and then go to the second 5 birds. And that's how I've learned bird song, and Larkwire is a really fun way to do it because it just gives you that, it's like a little game thing. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology, all about birds. If you're not sure about a bird, say a Vesper sparrow, okay, it'll give you a picture of a Vesper sparrow. It'll tell you about their habitat, which is extremely important, and it will play the song of a Vesper sparrow. Now, the problem with some of these things is, and I'm going into this in the next slide, birds have dialect. So if you have an ovenbird in New Hampshire and an ovenbird up in Deer Creek Canyon, they're going to sound differently because it's like, I still have a little bit of a Nebraskan accent or dialect, but these birds are going to sound different. They're going to have a different tail off or a trail off on their sound. So it's really important to, just be aware of that. And I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. The Macaulay Laboratory of Bird Photos and Library of Recorded Songs, it's called the ML catalog number, okay, Macaulay Laboratory. Find the birds that are regional in Colorado or Utah or Wyoming, at least in this part of the country, not in, Iowa, because that you're going to get that dialect of the bird, okay? So this is a good one. Cornell Lab is excellent, all about birds. We all know about eBird and all that. Here's my big go-to. Zeno Canto bird recordings from around the world, okay? So you pull up Zeno Canto, and then you're going to pull up, this is a internet thing, archivebay.com, okay? You're going to create a free account. You're going to choose a bird species, say a lazuli bunting. I'm going to look, they give you an A, B, C, D, E, and the A is outlined in black. That's the primo recordings. I look for our regional recordings, Nick Komar, Sue Rife, Ted Floyd, Nathan Pipolo, Eric DeFonso, or Andrew Spencer, which are excellent recordings. I choose the A recording. And then it gives you an option to download it on a file, an XC, a Zeno Canto catalog number. And then what I do, it saves on my computer, and I can make a playlist. And that's what I did tonight. I made a playlist of these birds, and that's why I presented them to you. So these are all, if you're just like, oh my God, it's going to be snowing, I can't go out, the birds aren't migrating yet, according to Brian's presentation last night, because they're stuck in migration. Right now, on a bad weather day when you can't go out, this is a good way to start learning the birds. And make your sketchbook, and make your drawings, and make your, that sort of thing, and make your crazy scenarios. Eventually, like I mentioned, we are going to have, I'm almost done, habitats and the birds in the habitats, the riparian, the spruce fir, the lodgepole, and the bird diary. You're going to find these birds, and this is a future ongoing workshops that we are going to have. I just wanted to mention that we are going to have birds in those habitats. So putting it all together, you're going to go out tomorrow, you're going to go to Dollar Tree, and you're going to get your little spiral thing of index cards and your little cheap sketchbook. You're going to make target birds that you just don't know, that you want to memorize in your library. You're going to use these audio visual tools that I suggested tonight. You're going to hear with your eyes. You're going to go out tomorrow morning and you're going to hear the black-capped chickadee. And even though you know it's a black-capped chickadee, you're going to watch it sing. Okay? You're going to listen. Even if you're hard of hearing, you're going to listen. Just really try to listen farther than you can see. And use a colorful imagination. There's no rules. I mean, this isn't ornithology, PhD. This is real, true day-to-day field work. Okay. So for your homework, and I promised that we would do a follow-up workshop in about a month or so of just you guys using these concepts and sharing them, like a field trip thing. And tell me what you've learned. Tell me what worked, what didn't work, what confused you, what made sense. And this is what your homework is going to be. And I will share this with you if you need to. You're going to choose 5 bird songs that you absolutely cannot remember, that you just don't know. They're migrant birds, or don't do a lot of warblers because they're just really hard. Okay. But use stuff like house wren or lazuli bunting, for example. Choose the habitat you think the bird might be found in. And again, in All About Birds or the Breeding Bird Atlas of Colorado, it could be helpful to find that. Use as many tools that you've been presented to you and keep a sketchbook and sketch these things and draw it. And use the Cornell, the Larkwire app, which you have to buy. The YouTube videos are free, and Xenocanto is free. You just have to make an account, which is no big deal. And again, we will come back in about a month and we'll talk about all this. And I am just thrilled that I'm done talking. And thanks for your interest. And I hope this presentation was fun and useful. And I am done.